Some of the most unforgettable songs of the 70s were more than just hits. They were real stories of heartbreak, tragedy, and survival set to music. From Shipwrecks to Lost Love.
Alone again, naturally.
These powerful tunes will make you wonder which one still hits the hardest after all these years, especially when you find out what they're about. Seasons in the Sun, Terry Jacks.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun, but the one...
You couldn't escape Seasons in the Sun in 1974. It was playing on every station, every jukebox, every school dance. And on the surface, it just sounded like a soft little goodbye song. But once you listened to the lyrics, you realized it was about death. Terry Jacks adapted it from a French song about a dying man saying farewell to his loved ones. And he gave it that tender, almost innocent sound that made it even more heartbreaking. Remember sitting in your car, hearing "Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die," and thinking, wow, this is kinda heavy stuff for the top 40. That's what made it so strange and unforgettable. You'd be humming along 1 minute, and then suddenly it would hit you like a lump in your throat.
The ground, goodbye, Michelle, it's hard to die.
It was the kind of tune that made kids quiet down and grown-ups get reflective, no matter where they were. Some thought it was too sentimental, maybe even corny, but for so many of us, it felt like one of the first pop songs that made you face something real, something very real. And to this day, I don't know about you, but whenever I hear it, I'm taken right back to those moments of melancholy that somehow became part of our everyday soundtrack. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, Gordon Lightfoot.
The wild made a tattletale sound and away broke over the rain.
When Gordon Lightfoot released The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald in '76, it hit like a ghost story set to music. Those opening guitar strums felt like icy waves on steel, and his voice, it carried the weight of the 29 men lost when the freighter sank on Lake Superior just the year prior. This song was really unusual for pop radio, nearly 7 minutes long, more funeral march than love song, but people stopped what they were doing to listen to this. And you know that chilling line, "Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours?"
Where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours.
Oh gosh, it still gives me chills to this day. And what made this song so unforgettable was how it blurred history and music. You were not just hearing a song, you were absorbing a tragedy, almost like you were standing at the lake yourself. Do you remember hearing it for the first time? The house quiet, feeling a lump in your throat? That is why it remains timeless. It was more than a hit single, it was a memorial carried through the airwaves. Billy, Don't Be a Hero, Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods.
Billy, don't be a hero, come back to me.
This one takes you straight back to the Vietnam era. Billy, Don't Be a Hero hit the charts in '74, and while it never mentions Vietnam by name, everyone knows what it's talking about. A young soldier heading off to war, despite his fiancée begging him not to. I mean, gosh, that's so sad. Maybe you picture couples swaying to it at a school dance, the girls tearing up while the guys try to play it cool. This one was catchy, but man, the story was pure heartbreak. The twist, that letter arriving after Billy's death, it hit like a punch to the gut.
He was a hero, she should be proud he died that way.
For all its pop melody and upbeat rhythm, it was really about loss, sacrifice, and the fear that hung over so many families in those years. Looking back, it really was an important song for its time, capturing the unease of an entire generation. Every time it played, it reminded us how fragile life was when war touched nearly every household. Cats in the Cradle, Harry Chapin.
And the cat's in the cradle and a silver spoon, the little boy blue and the man on the moon.
Now here's one that always hit a little too close to home. Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle came out in '74, inspired by a poem his wife had written, and it spun the tale of a father too busy to spend time with his boy, only to realize years later the roles had been reversed. What made it so powerful, I think, was how universal it felt. You didn't even need to have kids of your own to understand the sting of missed moments.
Say I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you.
Of time slipping by before you even noticed. And Chapin, well, he delivered it with that warm, matter-of-fact voice, like he was talking directly to you. Every single time it came on the radio, you could almost hear people get quiet, because deep down, we all knew we were living that song in one way or another. He stopped loving her today, George Jones.
He stopped loving her today.
A lot of country music fans called this one the saddest country song ever written, and I can't find any room for argument here. George Jones poured his entire soul into He Stopped Loving Her Today back in 1980, telling the story of a man who kept loving a woman right up until the day he died. The arrangement was super simple, the delivery was heartbreaking, and when that spoken verse came in, I went to see him just today. Well, you could feel the lump in your throat. And country music has plenty of sad songs, but this one is just in a league of its own.
I went to see my friend today.
What makes it sting even more, I think, is that Jones himself was no stranger to heartbreak and struggle. This song became his comeback, but you could tell he was singing from real scars, not just reading lines off a page. Listeners felt that honesty, like we were all eavesdropping on a man's final confession. And to this day, if it comes on the radio, I'll still let it play, because it still has the power to quiet a room. Wildfire, Michael Murphy.
On a pony she called Wildfire.
When Wildfire came out in 1975, it felt like stepping into another world. Michael Murphy based it on a Native American legend he'd been told about a young woman who dies searching for her lost horse in a blizzard. And with that piano intro rolling like falling snow, and Murphy's soft voice painting the picture, you could practically see the whiteout and feel the cold. This track was haunting but beautiful, the kind of song that stuck with you long after it ended. What really made it hit was how unusual it was for pop radio at the time. Instead of a love song or a party track, here was a ghostly ballad about grief, nature, and legend.
Pony she named Wildfire.
Some folks thought it was too strange, but for others, myself included, it was mesmerizing. And to this day, when I hear She Ran Calling Wildfire, I still get chills, like that lost horse is galloping just out of sight. Alone Again, naturally, Gilbert O'Sullivan.
Alone again, naturally.
If you ever needed proof that pop songs could be devastating, Alone Again, naturally was it. Gilbert O'Sullivan released it in 1972, and while the melody was light and almost bouncy, the lyrics were just gut-wrenching. Abandonment at the altar, losing both parents, questioning life itself. I mean, what else do you need? And what you might not know is that the song was semi-autobiographical too. Which I know makes it hit even harder, because you could tell Gilbert was not making up a story, he was working through real pain. Remember hearing it on the radio and thinking, good grief, this is heavy, but still singing along.
I'm indeed alone again, naturally.
And that's the thing, its honesty made it unforgettable. It was not sugar-coated heartbreak, it was raw despair dressed in a catchy tune. And I think that's why people connected with it so well, because we all knew what it was like to be blindsided by loss, even if we didn't say it out loud. It is rare for a chart-topping pop hit to leave you both humming and quietly reflecting, but this one has managed to do both. Rocky, Austin Roberts.
Hey, Rocky, you know you've been alone before. You know that you.
If Rocky doesn't get you misty-eyed, I don't know what will. Written by Nashville songwriter Jay Stevens, aka Leon Carr, and sung by Austin Roberts in 1975. It tells the story of a young husband who finds love, starts a family, and then watches it all shatter when his wife falls ill and passes away, leaving him to raise the kid alone. And so, in just a few verses, you move from teenage romance to the heartbreak of death and new fatherhood. Because by the time the baby's born, the mother's gone. The song has taken you through an entire lifetime of joy and grief. There were no flashy metaphors, no hidden meanings, just plain-spoken storytelling that felt like it could have been your next-door neighbor's life. That's part of why it resonated so deeply. Listeners connected with Rocky not as a character, but as an everyman. Everyone knew someone who had lived through a similar kind of tragedy. The song itself was based on a true-to-life composite story that Nashville songwriters often drew from. Ordinary people facing extraordinary heartbreak. Roberts himself said he was drawn to it because it felt so real. And while some critics dismissed it as too sad for radio, audiences just plainly disagreed. It climbed all the way to number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became Roberts' biggest hit. And then country singer Dickie Lee recorded his own version that hit number 1 on the country charts in 1975, proving the story struck a chord across genres.
She said, Rocky, I never had to die before. Don't know if I can do.
Looking back, Rocky stands out as one of the most devastating story songs of the 70s. It doesn't rely on drama or shock value. It relies on love, marriage, sickness, and loss, things we all face in some way. And that's why it still endures, because it isn't just Rocky's story, it could be anyone's. Run, Joey, Run, David Geddes.
Run, Joey, run, Joey, run.
Run, Joey, Run was pure teenage tragedy put to vinyl, part pop single and part soap opera. Released in '75 by David Geddes, the song tells the story of a girl begging her boyfriend to run before her father finds them together. And by the end, a shot rings out and the girl dies in her lover's arms. It was melodramatic, almost cinematic, complete with strings, choirs, and spoken word dialogue. But underneath all that was a theme ripped from real life, violence tearing families apart. The song itself wasn't just invented out of thin air. Writers Paul Vance and Jack Perricone drew inspiration from real teen tragedy songs of the early 60s, hits like Teen Angel or Leader of the Pack. But they reimagined them for the turbulent 70s, when stories of domestic violence and family disputes were making the headlines. That sense of reality is what gave the song its punch. It might have been campy in sound, but the scenario was chillingly believable.
Daddy, please don't. It wasn't his fault. He means so much to me.
Run, Joey, Run became a surprise hit, climbing to number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and cementing Geddes' place in pop history, even though he never really repeated that level of success. Critics sometimes mocked its over-the-top delivery, but fans couldn't forget that gut punch of an ending. It functioned almost like a modern cautionary tale, warning young listeners about the dangers of love, secrecy, and parental rage. And for all its camp, Run, Joey, Run remains one of the most unforgettable story songs of the 70s. Proof that heartbreak doesn't always come quietly. Sometimes it crashes in with a gunshot. Lonely Boy, Andrew Gold. Now, Andrew Gold didn't have to really invent much for Lonely Boy. He was writing straight from his own childhood. Released in 1977, it told the story of a boy who felt pushed aside after his little sister was born. And you can hear the sting of jealousy and abandonment in every single line. What's funny though, is that the piano-driven melody is so upbeat that plenty of people probably sang along without realizing how bitter the lyrics really were. Remember hearing it on the radio and thinking, man, this guy is really working through something. Well, that honesty, it made it stand out. Most pop songs were about love or heartbreak or both.
And he left to find all the love he had lost in that earlier time.
But here was a tune about sibling rivalry and feeling unloved at home, something a lot of kids secretly understood. It was Andrew Gold putting his family story out there, plain as day, and people connected to that vulnerability. Even with its bouncy sound, you could feel the ache underneath, and that's why it has stuck around so long. Danny's song, Loggins and Messina. Few songs capture pure family love like Danny's song. Kenny Loggins wrote it in 1971 as a gift to his brother Danny after the birth of their first child. And when Loggins and Messina released it, it became one of those tunes you instantly felt in your heart. It was not about fame or riches, it was about love, new life, and the simple joy of being together. This one's a beautiful song. You often heard it at weddings and family gatherings, and it always brought smiles and maybe a tear or two.
And every morning when I rise, you bring a tear of joy to my eye.
What makes it so special is that it's both deeply personal and universal. Even if you didn't know the backstory, you could feel the warmth pouring out of every line. The melody is gentle, the lyrics hopeful, and it reminds you that life's biggest treasures aren't things you can buy. To this day, if Danny's song comes on, it feels like a hug from an old friend. Brother Louie Stories.
Louie, Louie, you're gonna cry.
When Brother Louie hit US radio in 1973, it wasn't just another pop tune, it was a bold confrontation with one of the rawest issues of the time, interracial love. The song tells of a white man falling for a black woman and the backlash they both face from their own families. The lyrics do not soften the blow, they lay it bare, and in the early 70s, only a few years after the Loving v. Virginia Supreme Court case had finally struck down bans on interracial marriage in '67. This was still a lightning rod topic, and for many listeners, the honesty of Brother Louie was downright shocking. The track itself was originally written and recorded by the British band Hot Chocolate, but it was the New York group Stories, fronted by singer Ian Lloyd, who turned it into a stateside smash. Their version hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and made the subject unavoidable, blasting from car radios and jukeboxes nationwide. Critics at the time noted how unusual it was to hear such a taboo subject woven into a pop single, especially one wrapped in such an infectious groove.
His mama and papa, Louie knew just where it stood.
What made Brother Louie stick was the contrast, the smooth, almost danceable sound versus the weight of the lyrics. As one Rolling Stone critic later put it, quote, "It was heartbreak disguised as a hit." And it wasn't abstract, this was reflecting reality. Couples across America were quietly fighting the very battles described in this song. Against prejudice from parents, neighbors, even strangers on the street. Decades later, the song resurfaced as the theme for the FX show Louie, proving its staying power. But back in 1973, Brother Louie was more than just a catchy TV intro. It was courageous. It took a subject most stations wouldn't touch and made it impossible to ignore. The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, Vicki Lawrence.
That's the night that the lights went out in Georgia.
This one was a shocker the first time you really listened to the story. In 1972, Vicki Lawrence, yeah, the same Vicki from the Carol Burnett Show, sang The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, and delivered a full-blown Southern Gothic tragedy. Murder, betrayal, infidelity, and a man wrongly executed. It had all the twists of a crime novel packed into just 3 minutes. I remember folks at first thinking, wait, the comedy gal is singing this? But she nailed it. What made it even more memorable was how unfair the story was. It's terrible, honestly. The brother gets framed, the wife's running around, and the real killer walks free.
Since you've been gone, she's been seeing that aimless voice.
It leaves you shaking your head. It didn't just play like a song, it felt like a warning about justice gone wrong in a small town. And to this day, when that chorus kicks in, it still gives you chills. Like you're standing under those dark Georgia pines yourself, waiting for the lights to just go out. Angie Baby, Helen Reddy.
Radio by your side, Angie Baby.
Helen Reddy sure surprised people with Angie Baby in 1974, because on the surface it sounded like a sweet pop tune. But the lyrics, they told a much darker story. A lonely girl, shut away from the world, who used music and her imagination to escape. Songwriter Alan O'Day said he was inspired by a girl from his own neighborhood who struggled with a developmental issue, which made the tale even more upsetting. You heard this and you thought, yeah, this is not your typical love song. What gave it staying power was how it balanced creepy with compassion. Angie wasn't a villain, she was vulnerable, someone you almost wanted to protect.
Stopping at her house is a neighbor boy with evil on his mind.
Even as the story took that eerie turn with the boy who disappears. Reddy sang it with just the right mix of warmth and mystery, so you felt pulled into Angie's world. This one was haunting, it was memorable, and one of those songs you couldn't quite shake after it ended. Killing Me Softly with his song, Roberta Flack.
Killing me softly with this song, softly with this song.
Now, few songs captured the raw emotion like Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly with his song. And the story behind it makes it even more powerful. Lori Lieberman saw Don McLean perform and was so moved she described it as if he was singing her life with his words. That feeling turned into lyrics, and when Flack recorded it in 1973, she gave it that silky, aching delivery that made everyone stop and listen. It felt less like a performance and more like someone quietly confessing their soul. The genius of it was its intimacy.
Killing me softly.
It wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud. It was a slow burn that pulled you in, like being wrapped in a moment you didn't want to end. People connected with it instantly because we've all had that experience of a song cutting right to the bone. And to this day, when you hear Killing Me Softly, you have to listen. It's just one of the best songs ever. Midnight Train to Georgia, Gladys Knight and the Pips.
Oh, that midnight train to Georgia. Midnight train, yeah.
Now here's a song that just wraps around you like velvet. Gladys Knight and the Pips turned Midnight Train to Georgia into a masterpiece in '73. But the spark came from something pretty down to earth. Songwriter Jim Weatherly had a phone call with Farrah Fawcett, who mentioned she was, quote, taking a midnight plane to Houston to follow her dreams of love over career. Well, he reworked it into a story of sacrifice, heartbreak, and devotion, and Gladys just made it timeless. The beauty of this song is how real it feels. We all knew someone who gave up big ambitions for love.
Oh, that midnight train to Georgia.
Or someone who had to pack it up and head back home after chasing that dream that didn't pan out. Gladys's voice made you feel both the sorrow and the strength in that decision. And every single time I hear it, I picture that train rolling south in the dark, carrying not just two people, but all the weight of hope and heartbreak we've all felt at some point. I Will Survive, Gloria Gaynor.
I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. I will survive.
You cannot talk about songs born from pain without ending on Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive. Most folks hear it as the ultimate disco anthem of strength, but the story behind it makes it even more powerful, I think. Gaynor had suffered a serious back injury that nearly ended her career, and this song became her way of fighting back, not just against personal struggles, but also against the idea that she was finished. What makes it so lasting is that it's both heartbreak and triumph all rolled into one. Sure, it's about moving on from a broken relationship, but it's also about surviving whatever life throws at you.
I will survive. I will survive.
And that mix of groove, grit, and resilience turned it into more than just a hit. It became a lifeline of people going through tough times, to the coolest disco beat. Even now, when the chorus kicks in, you can feel that surge of energy, like Gloria's victory became our victory too. Alright, what a ride through the highs and lows of the 70s. Those songs weren't just written for the charts, they were echoes of real people, real heartbreak, and real resilience. Whether it was a ship sinking on Lake Superior, a father missing his son grow up, or Gloria Gaynor standing tall after being knocked down.
Where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours.
Each one reminded us that music has the power to tell our own stories back to us. So what about you? Which of these songs hit you the hardest back then? And which still tug at your heartstrings today? Did I forget a great 70s song that was based on a true heartbreaking tale? Well, get down in the comment section and tell me anything about the songs I mentioned or any ones that I forgot. Because after all, we here at Do You Remember are nothing without you.
Say I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you.
If you enjoyed the video, which we sure hope you did, please click that little thumbs up icon. It really helps our channel a ton. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our latest video. But most importantly, from my entire team here at Do You Remember, I'm Nostalgic Nick, heading out like a midnight train to Georgia. But I will survive, and I hope you do too.